Hey, welcome back to Community Group.
Yes.
Are you liking this? This has been something fun and wild.
I've enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it. I miss so much doing this that I think doing this has been great. It's been good. We hope that you've been following along. This week, this lesson was on prayer. It was super. And so we're going to dig right into this topic of prayer. Because look, I mean, sometimes prayer feels as though we might be wasting our time or slow because it might feel like God's not listening or He's not there. But in fact, I think that's one of the reasons why Jesus gave us this parable, teaching us this lesson, because He knew that we would wrestle with these ideas and these feelings. But if we learned anything from the lesson that Austin taught this week, it was that when it comes to prayer, don't quit because it's quiet. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of practical applications that we have to this week, and hopefully what we're going to dig into in our small group conversation this week as well. So again, questions are going to be on the screen. We're going to have a little bit of dialogue. Feel free to pause the video and have your own conversation and thoughts about it. And Austin,
let's go.
What is the longest you've waited in a line that ultimately wasn't worth it? Or is there an example of a time that you waited in line for something that wasn't worth it?
Absolutely. So back in my high school heyday, I thought I was super cool. And
you still are super
really
cool,
smooth with the ladies. I was not smooth with ladies. But I was invited by some of these ladies to go to the midnight premiere, don't judge me, of Twilight.
Oh!
And so the line wrapped all the way around the movie theater. It took us about 45 minutes. They delayed it because it took so long to get everyone in, and I regretted every second of it.
Aren't you glad there's the reserved seat option now in movie theaters? You know, they do that?
Yeah, but
cool.
Also it was just a bad movie choice, and I would have done it. Would never have done it in the first place.
Yeah,
shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Bad life decisions. What about you? Anything like good? Is anything good waiting in long lines for?
I've waited in lines for movies. Again, back to my favorite things to do. My brother and I waited in line here at the Baton Rouge. I don't know. It's the River Center right now, right?
Cain's River Center.
Cain's River Center.
Yeah.
For in their heyday, popular rock band Creed.
Oh no.
We waited in line.
Popular?
Bro, this was a long time ago. All right. In their heyday, good Lord, they're huge. And I remember just like wrapping around the building and up just like so long for floor seats. And we got floor seats. It was amazing. It's got steps and all that and the pyrotechnics, and it was so worth it. It's great.
Aren't you happy now you can like buy floor seats ahead of time?
You still gotta wait. Yes. Anyways. Waiting in line, it's kind of weird because now with online shopping and what we can all get ahead of time, it's kind of changed what we wait. But, we still don't enjoy waiting, do we?
No, especially not in drive-through lines.
Definitely. In general, why can the concept of prayer be so difficult to understand?
It's really mysterious kind of concept. The fact that, there's so many different ways to pray. You can pray by yourself. You can pray with a couple of people. You can popcorn prayer. You can pray in a massive group. You can put hands on people. There's just so many different aspects when it comes to prayer that you really don't know exactly where to start, and that can be really intimidating.
Yeah, and I think, if we're talking about prayer being a conversation between us and God, we're having a conversation, but it's a whole lot different for those of you on the other side of this screen. Again, we're asking you to even pause this video and answer, but we won't be answering back. So, conversations...
It'd be weird.
It would be weird. Conversations are meant to have that dialogue back and forth, and when we have this idea of prayer with God, then it's like, where do I begin?
And also, do I have to talk like it's a Declaration of Independence every time I pray? Our Father, who art in heaven. It's just that weird feeling.
It is. It can be very weird. What are the reasons that you give up on praying when you've waited a long time for something?
God, it's just so... It's like you put so much energy into it, and then it doesn't pan out the way that you want. Mm-hmm. And I think, being the old man that you are, you may not feel this as much as I do, but
I feel on the back especially. Sorry.
But I know, like, now there's such this concept of instant gratification, whether it be through a drive-thru line, whether it be ordering movie tickets and knowing exactly where you're going to sit, or online shopping, knowing that, God works over the course of all eternity, and that our prayer that we had when we were 6 years old may not even pan itself out until we're like 46 years old, or may not pan out at all. It makes it really easy to just stop and just be like, well, what is this? Is it even worth my time, my effort, or my energy doing this?
Yeah, I think along those lines, just being distracted. I mean, we get so easily distracted that one moment, and I mean, I understand, we're talking in middle school and high school, I get distracted. And I know your attention spans. I mean, I have kids that are your age, and our attention spans, though, are so quick.
Who probably
that
have better
often,
attention spans than he does.
Yes. Oftentimes, one of the things that, our idea of a long time may not even be that long, as you were saying, and then we just get distracted and are thinking about something else. Something else has become more important to us and fills that spot sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that sometimes we only go to God in prayer for certain things?
I know for me personally, I think that I can accomplish them, so like I don't need to bother him. I know. So like growing up, I love my dad to death, but growing up, my dad would always say, "Well, have you exhausted all of your options?" And I'd be like, "Yes, I have. Just tell me where the stinking football is so I can go outside." And he would just tell me to go look for it. And so I grew up learning how to kind of just handle things on my own and not really ask for help. And so if I feel like it's a burden or bothersome to bring it to God, then for the most part, don't. Even though I know that He wants us to bring everything to Him.
Yeah, and I mean, we live in this weird tension, right, where we're talking about God as our Father, which is an intimate relationship idea, but then we're also talking about God as the creator of all universe. I mean, you're saying, outside of time, and His time is so long and great and amazing, and talking about Him being Lord, and talking about, there's a big, and even we express ideas of God about being reverent. And so I think for sometimes we don't bring things to God because does He really care? Is everything that matters to me, does it matter to God? It probably, I mean, look, God is Father. I mean, yeah, He cares about me, but God is God. Does He really care about what that? I mean, well, those some things begin to weigh down and bog down, I think, what I might request of God or come to Him, because I don't want to bother Him, or I think it might be, I just might be bagging on myself.
Curious to think how He thinks about how much you love greed. That'd be an interesting conversation.
That'd be amazing. Why is it important to your own faith to keep returning to God in prayer?
Why is it important for your own faith? If you understand, I mean, like I talked about on Sunday, if you understand like who the God is that you're praying to, it gives you a really good picture of who that God is. And if He's a God that's merciful and gracious and loving, like we all said on Sunday, then that's the kind of God that you want to talk to. That's the kind of God that you want to have a relationship with. And we talked about it in the direct message series too. It just deepens that relationship. And as you deepen that relationship, you grow in your understanding of all those good things that God is. And therefore you act them out in your relationships as well. So if you understand who you're having the conversation with, not as much the content of the conversation, that can really grow your understanding of who God is.
I think too, being the old man that I am, Rachel and I just celebrated 18 years of marriage. I've got, gracious. I know, right? I've got.
You realize half these kids are not even 18.
I know that. But even if you boil it all the way down to like your relationship with your best friend, I mean, the time you spend with your best friend, the time that I've spent with Rachel, returning back to conversations over and over and over again. It's not just, there's time that we spend in the house that we're together, but we're apart. But the conversations, returning to conversations with her, with my kids, with you and your best friend, deepens and strengthens your relationship with your best friend. And, we're talking about owning, my own faith. Well, it's your own relationship with God. I mean, I want to have I want to have a great relationship with God. In the same way I have a great relationship with my wife and with my kids and with my best friend. And it only comes with just constantly returning to the relationship, returning to conversations, returning to time spent with one another. Yeah. My back hurts. All right, so what did you get out of the story Jesus told about the neighbor?
I got don't wake up someone in the middle of the night to go knocking on the... No, that's not what I got. For me, it was... What I viewed as annoying was the guy knocking on the neighbor's door over and over. And if I was the person who was having their door knocked on, my immediate response was, oh, please just leave me alone. And to know how, I guess, human of a response that is. And then, I mean, I said it on Sunday too. Eventually, that person opened up the door and gave bread to the neighbor. And he was already annoyed. Imagine a God who doesn't get annoyed, who doesn't get frustrated, who doesn't just go, oh, please just leave me alone. Imagine how he will respond to that. And that for me was just that was really reassuring to my relationship with prayer with God and what that looks like. That there is no level of annoyance that I can reach. There's no obnoxious amount of times that I can come to him where he won't at least hear me out for sure.
Yeah. That's a wild passage. If you missed it, make sure you pause this video when we're done. Go back and find Austin's talk on Storyteller Week 3 and catch up. Hey, so how would being sure that God listens to your prayers change what you consistently pray about?
I go back to just knowing the character of who you're talking about. I mean, if you know who God is and what he wants, and you start aligning that, like for instance, I'm not going to talk to Dallas Cowboys with Connor because he has no clue about NFL football or any of that stuff. However, I will talk about like Avengers, I'll talk about movies, I'll talk about all of those things because I know that that's something he loves. And so when I come to God, it's kind of the same mentality as I come to him about the things that he views as good and righteous and holy, and I want those to kind of flesh themselves out in my life. So just knowing who God is kind of and living in that kind of drives how we have that conversation.
And I think just knowing that God listens. I mean, I have the ear of the creator of the universe. It's going to change. That changes the way that I think about myself.
Yep.
I mean, how? Why? What? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But knowing that I have the ear of the creator of the universe who's listening to me, wow. I mean, again, I do think back to times that I spent with my parents, just alone with them, and knowing that I could tell them anything, and how that felt, how that reassurance that gave me in our relationship was huge. And so I don't want us to miss that. I think that's a monumental way for us to understand our relationship with God through Jesus, that he listens to us, and that I think that would just change that I consistently pray.
Yeah.
That in and of itself, because he's listening and he's hearing what I have to say, and honestly, that would probably even change how much I talk. I would just stop and enjoy that moment, you know.
Yeah.
So before you turn this off, we want you to answer this question on your own, right? So, what are some ways that praying consistently can grow your faith, regardless of the outcome? We've talked a lot about this concept, I think, to help you out with that. If you missed the teaching on it, go back and find that video. But answer that question. What are some ways that praying consistently can grow your faith, regardless of the outcome?
And what's great is another thing that we want to challenge you with is actually recording in some way, shape, or form those prayers, whether it be the notes app on your phone, whether it be writing it down in a paper journal, which I know paper is like making its way out the door apparently, but taking that time to record those, so then as you continue your prayer life and as you continue your walk with Jesus, you can look back and go, man, this is what I was praying when I was 12, 15, 17, and God worked his awesomeness like 5 years down the road. How awesome is that to see the big creator God taking that much interest in my prayers over that long of a period of my life? And it's just really reassuring as well, as believers, that we have that ear that we can talk to.
Yeah. So, We're going to have all the questions on the screen here at the end of this video. We will see you back again sometime really, really soon, and back for community group 1 week from tonight.